So we are going to do one more review. So we're going to do these sections right here. I'm not going to write them down all at once. I'm going to write down, as we go through each of these problems, I'll tell you which problems they are, okay? So we are number 11. So we did the review before that went up to number 10. Now we're at number 11. And so this is section 1.3. And it's page 117. All of these on section 1.3 are from page 117. All right, so number 11 would be 17 to 20. All right, so you're going to see exactly one of these problems, either 17, 18, 19, or 20, okay, that will be on the test. So have your book open if you have any interest in this. And look at 17 to 20. And is there a particular one of those that you want to do? Again, I would probably concentrate on the odd ones just because we know what the answers are. But it could be an even one on the test as well, though. All right, so just remember that. 19? All right, let's do 19. 3 minus 4i. And 2 plus I. And now the problem doesn't say solve because there's no variables here. And you're looking at this, you're like, well, i's a variable, isn't it? But is I a variable? Not now, it's not. Okay, it stands for something specific. It's the square root of -1. So it actually stands for a number. It's a complex number, but it does stand for a number. So the problem says, what does it say? Write each expression in standard form. Do you remember what standard form was for a complex number? A plus bi, very good. Okay, so that's the standard form. Let me make sure this is recording. Yep, it is. All right, so this looks just like a basic FOIL method problem, doesn't it? And it is. Okay, you just have to know what to do with that I, that's all. All right, so let's FOIL this. So first, which would be 6, right? I'm not going to write it out. I'll just multiply it in my head. So that's the first. The outside is plus 3i. The inside is minus 8i. And then the last, is that right? Yep. Minus 4i what? Because it's I times I squared. Okay, we good so far? Just FOIL. That's all it is. I can't reteach that now. Add some like terms. So what are your like terms? Well, you just have a 6 right here, so I'm just going to write that down. Well, you got these right here. These are like terms, so that's minus 5i. And then you got to figure out what this is. This needs to be memorized. I squared. What's I squared equal to? It's -1. So what do you have? You got -4 times -1, don't you? And what is that? It's +4, so you put a +4. See what we're doing? All right, pretty easy. That's the only thing new. That I squared thing right there is -1. That's really the only thing new from this section. All right, let's put it in this form. So the real goes first and the imaginary goes second. So 6 plus 4 is 10 minus 5i, and that's it. That's all we do. Josh, you going to fact check me? I think I got that one. We good with that? Pretty easy. Don't you wish they were all like that? They're not. Okay, good. Yep, that was right. Yep. Oh, where'd it go? Why isn't it moving? What's going on? There it goes. Okay. You got a question on that? Right here? 6 plus 4. Okay, just added like terms because an I is not a like term. So 6 and 4 is 10, and that's a minus 5i. We good? All right. So number 12. Let's change colors. Number 12 on the test it's page 117 again. I'm not going to write that down, but it's 23 to 28. So 23, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That could be number 12 on the test. Any of these. So let's look at some odd ones. 23, 25, 27. Take a look at them. They're all kind of the same, aren't they? Do you have a particular one you want to do? 23. Okay. So the first person that says it, then that's the one we'll do. So it's 10 over 3 minus 4i. Again, this is the same, and it gives you the same instructions. It says, what's it say? Write each expression, if I could talk, in standard form, which is a plus bi. So that's what we're trying to do. All right, this is not a plus bi because you got this fraction, all right? And so what are we going to do with this? Well, first of all, we have an I in the bottom. So Justin, why do we not like the I in the bottom?
Because it's just like it's not like common denominator with anything else.
It doesn't have anything to do with common denominator. So what is I? What is I just by itself? It's the what? The square root of negative 1, right? So if you have a square root in the bottom, you're not allowed to, okay? They don't want you to do that, okay? So you don't want to have a square root in the denominator. Everybody good with that? And if you look at that a plus bi standard form, it doesn't have any denominators, okay? And I is definitely not in the denominator. So what are we going to do? Well, we have a little method. I was going to say trick. It's not really a trick. This is what we learned how to do, okay? This is a little method. Anytime you have a complex number and you multiply it by its, give me a word, starts with a C. Conjugate, very good. Okay, if you multiply it by the conjugate, it's going to get rid of that I. Everybody hear me on that? That I will go away. So that's what we're going to do. I'm doing this in a different color just to show you what the difference. So 3, and the conjugate is 3 plus 4i. It's that easy. All right, the conjugate is just the same thing except you just change the sign that's in the middle. Everybody got it? All right, and then right here, 3 plus 4i. Now, why did I do that to the top? Why didn't I just do it to the bottom? Because really, look what's in pink right there. What is that? It's a 1, okay? So really, all I did was multiply by a 1, right? And that's cool. I'm allowed to do that, and that's why I did it. All right, let's continue. So now, on that last problem we did, is kind of the same, isn't it? We do a little FOIL here. All right, but the nice thing about multiplying by the conjugate is the outside and the inside always add up to 0, always. So we don't have to worry about doing the outside and the inside, all right? So just do the first and the last. So if you do the first, you multiply the first together, what do you get? 9. Multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, let's multiply the last. Negative times positive is negative, and then 4 times 4 is 16. I times I is I squared. So that's how you multiply by a conjugate. You just have to multiply the first ones and then the last ones. Easy. What about this? It's just distributive property, right? Just have a regular number right here. So you multiply the 10 through both of those, so you get 30 plus 40i. We good? All right. We're not finished, though. You notice that right there? That's pretty important. So what's I squared? It's negative 1. So let's bring it down here. So what's this going to be? This is going to be 9. What's that thing going to? Is it plus 16? Right. It's going to be plus 16. Why plus? There's a negative right there. Well, it's because it's a negative times a negative, because that I squared is negative 1. So you really have 2 negatives down here, don't you? So it's minus negative 16, which is the same as plus 16. All right? You might have been able to just go from this to the next denominator in your head if you wanted to, and that's perfectly fine. So what's my denominator now? 25, and I've got a 30 and plus 4i. What is it? 40i, thank you. Got to keep track of me. I mess up a lot. It's 40i, and then let's get rid of this and make that 40i. All right, so what do we got? What I would do is this. I would split them up because we want an a plus a bi. We want the real part first and the imaginary part second. All right, and so this is what this is going to be. 40i over 25. Do we just leave it like that? No. We're almost done. So what do you think? What goes into both of these? 5. 5 goes into that 5 times. 5 goes into that 6 times. So I've got 6 over 5 plus, what happens here? 5 goes into both of those as well, right? 5 goes into that 5 times. 5 goes into this, what? 8 times. So you've got 8 over 5, and then put the I on the outside. That is in standard form. That's how you write your answer, just like that. Okay? All right. Let's keep going. If you want me to go a little slower, you can always look at the video and then pause it, go back. All right, that's the best way to watch these videos. All right, number 13, same page, 170 or 117, and it's 41 to 46. So 41 to 46. So let's take a look at the book. Look at 41 to 46. Any of those you want to do? 40, which one? 3? Okay. Let's do 43 then. So it's I to the 7th, 1 plus I squared. I see something right away. I don't even have to worry about what I to the 7th is. I'll show you what it is in a second, okay? But look at this right here, 1 plus I squared. What did we say I squared was for the third time today? -1. What's 1 plus -1? 0. What's 0 times anything? That's your answer. See how easy that is? Okay. But what if I really needed to find out what I to the 7th was? How do we do that? I think I might do another one of these. Let's do, after this one, either 45 or 46, okay? Because I want to go through this a little bit more. So how do I figure out what I to the 7th is? Now, do I need to do this 7 times? No. All right. So don't do that. All right. I saw somebody do that on the quiz. A couple people actually did that on the quiz. And I think they got it right too. Did you get it right? Yeah. And that's fine. If you get it right, that's cool. But it takes too much time. It's too much effort. Okay. What I look at is the 7. What is a multiple of 4 that comes before 7? So 6. Is that a multiple of 4? No. 5? No. What? 4. So I'm going to write I to the 7th, I to the 4th, and then what's left over after I to the 4th? Because it's the multiple of 4 that comes before 7. Okay? And why did I pick 4? I mean, what's magic about that? Well, it is magic. It's a what? It's a 1. That's right. It's a positive 1. That's why I pick what's a multiple of 4. Anytime you have I to a multiple of 4, I to the 4th, I to the 8th, I to the 12th, blah, blah, blah. Anytime you have to the multiple of 4, it's a what? It's a 1. So what am I left with? I'm just left with I cubed. You should have that memorized. Remember, we had the 4 of those you should have memorized. But what is I cubed? Negative I. That's what I to the 7th is. But it's negative I times what? We already talked about that, 0. So my answer is 0. All right, but there are times where you're going to have to figure out what I to the 7th is or what I to the 9th is or something like that. Josh?
If we already did a 1 plus I squared equals 0, do we even have to do the I7? We just
No, it's exactly what I said earlier. That's right. As soon as you see that, you're like, oh, that's 0. I don't even care what I to the 7th is. Anything times 0 is 0. Bang, I'm done. Go to the next one. Yep. Remember, time is of the essence on a test. All right? Now, if there was a problem where you had to do 5 or 6 steps and all you do is write down an answer, I'm not giving it to you. I'm telling you right now. Everybody understand me? Okay, I have got to see where you got that. So in this case right here, you could have said I to the 7th times 0. If that was your only step, I'd be good with that. Everybody see that? You got to show me at least how you approach the problem. All right, and I got to see that you approach it the right way. If you have a big, long problem with a bunch of steps that you should put in there, and you just write the answer down, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking you just looked at somebody else's paper and just wrote that answer down. Okay, and that's probably what happened, to tell you the truth. Okay, unless you memorize every single one of these problems we're going over, and you have it memorized and you write it down, that would be harder than figuring out how to do the problem, I think. Yeah.
So if I just go through and memorize,
Memorize. Don't memorize I to the 7th. Memorize this. Memorize these. The first 4. That's what you should memorize. I is easy to memorize. It's just I, right? Or I to the 1st. It's just I. What's I squared? It's -1. What's I cubed? Negative I. What's I to the 4th? 1. That's what you should memorize. Okay? So let's make up one. What if you had I to the 18th? First of all, is that a multiple of 4? No. 18 is? No. It's 2, but it's not a multiple of 4. So let's rewrite it as, what's the 1 before 18 that's a multiple of 4? What's the I to the 16th is a multiple of 4, and that comes just before the 18th. What's left over then? I what? Squared. So we know both of these. What's I to the 16th? It's 1, because it's a multiple of 4. That's why I tried to figure out what is the multiple of 4 before that number. That's why I did it. Okay, so that's a 1. What's I squared? It's -1. So I to the 18th is -1. So I don't memorize what I to the 18th is, what I to the 17th is. I just memorize basically just these 3 right there. And once you memorize those 3, you could do any of these. We good? All right. I said I was going to do one of those other ones, but I think I told you enough right there to be able to do those. All right, that's 13. Let's do 14. And that would be 53 to 56. 53 to 56. All right, so let's take a look at 53 to 56. Which one of those do you want to do? 55? Nope. It's too easy. I'm going to give you another one. Let's do 53. That's a hint. You get the hint? Yeah, of course. All right, so x squared plus 4 equals 0. We went over this in class before we took the quiz on this stuff, right? Last time we took a quiz. And I showed you how to do it. People still tried to factor this. Does this factor? It doesn't. Okay, this is not a difference of 2 squares because you got a plus right there. People were putting x minus 2, x plus 2. That is not this. That would come out to x squared minus 4, wouldn't it? Okay, don't do that. All right, learn from your mistakes. Learn from when I showed you how to do this, because we went over this exact problem before we even took the quiz. So what are we going to do? What is our step here? We can't factor it. I want to get x by itself. This says to solve, by the way. So how do we get x by itself? We'll get rid of the 4, right? How do I get rid of the 4? Subtract. So x squared is equal to what? -4. Easy. That's pre-algebra problem right there. That part of it. This next part's not, but that part is at least algebra 1. We got to get x by itself. We got to square it. What do we do to get rid of a square? We square root it, and we square root this. You got to remember, though, to put a what? The plus or minus in front of that. That square root cancels out that square, so I'm just left with an x. What's this? We don't want to leave it like this because it'll simplify. Put the plus or minus. Don't forget that. What's the square root of 4? It's 2. But you also have a negative inside of that, don't you? So it's an I. The square root of -1. Whenever you have a square root, whenever you have a negative inside that square root, it becomes an I. That is your answer right there. If the book would write it like this, and then put braces around it. I am not expecting it to do that, but if you look in the book, it looks like that. I'm perfectly fine. In fact, I probably prefer that you write your answer like this. We good? That wasn't so bad, was it? All right. Let's do the next one. 15. We're almost last one for section 1-3. So we are doing 61 to 64. It's not that many. 61 to 64. So let's take a look at 61 or 63. Which one? 3? Okay, so let's do 63. Again, I've said this a bunch of times, but you could have even ones on there as well. All right, we're just doing the odds in class because we know what the answers are. Equals 2x. What does this almost look like? It almost looks like a what? Give me a word. Quadratic, thank you. It looks like a quadratic, okay? But not quite, because usually these quadratics are equal to 0, right? So let's make it equal to 0. So what's that going to look like? Yeah, I'm going to put the minus 2x in the middle, right? Because ax squared plus bx plus c. And then plus 1 equals 0. See what we did? We just subtracted a 2x from both sides. And I decided to put it in the middle because now it looks like a quadratic. Doesn't look like this thing factors. I don't know, it might factor, but I'm not going to waste my time trying to factor this and finding out that it doesn't factor. So what's the first thing I want to do? Again, we're solving. These say solve. So what do I want to do here? Use what? Quadratic formula, that's right. Okay, it's a quadratic equation set equal to 0, so let's use the quadratic formula. I've done this probably multiple times. All right, x equals. So it's negative b. I'm not going to write down the formula because I'm worried about time, okay? So I'm not going to write it down. If it helps you to write it down and then put what a is equal to, b, and c, go ahead and do that if that's going to help you get it right. But I know what this is. It's negative b. So what's negative b in this situation? Is it? No, what's negative b? The opposite of b. It's just 2. We've talked about that a bunch. Why is it 2? Because b is negative 2, but our formula says to put the opposite of b in there, right? So if b is negative 2, what's the opposite of negative 2? It's positive 2. We good with that? Okay. So it's negative b plus or minus the square root. What's the formula say? B squared, right? So b was negative 2. If you square negative 2, what do you get? It's negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. Make sure you get the sign right. Don't just square the 2 and stick a negative in front of it. You're going negative 2 times negative 2. So there's your b squared minus 4ac. So just stick a 4 here. Let's put our a right there. Let's put our c right there. So what's our a? It's 5. What's our c? It's 1. Remember, this is the a, this is the b, this is the c. Over 2a, 2 times 5. So that's how you plug everything into the quadratic formula. All right, you got to know that. Okay, there's several places in here where you have to know the formula. So let's figure it out. 2 plus or minus square root. I've got 4, let's see, minus what? 20? Yep, and that's over 10. I did that right? Did I? Make sure I'm paying attention. And this is negative 16 over 10. So 15, let's see, what did we say this was? Number 63. I just want to make sure. Yeah, because the problem, it doesn't just say solve. It says solve the equation in the complex number system. So what does that mean? What kind of answer are you going to get? You're going to get an imaginary number in there, right? Because that's a complex number. All right, so that makes sense that we get a negative inside that square root, doesn't it? All right, so let's keep going. 2 plus or minus. Let's do this in our head. What's the square root of negative 16? Well, what's the square root of 16? It's 4 and then an I. That's right. See how easy it is now? Right? You're able to do that in your head. Over what? 10. Let's split it up. We did this on the other problem. So we get 2 over 10 plus or minus 4 over 10 I. You might have been able to simplify that from here to the end in your head if you wanted to, but let's just do it like this. 2 over 10 is 1 over 5 plus or minus 4 over 10 is 2 over 5 and then an I. And that is your answer. We good with that? Yeah, that's still on the screen. Basically, that problem is just knowing the quadratic formula. Okay, if you know how to do the quadratic formula, you should be able to do that problem. All right, we got to go on. So if you didn't get all that written down, just click there on the video. Let's see, what color haven't we used? This purple. All right, now we're on section 1-4. 5 more to go and we're done. So number 16 on the test. This is on page 122. And number 16 on the test is going to be like 19 to 21. So 19, 20, 21's So basically, let's take a look at 19 and 21. Which one you want to do? Look at 19, look at 21. Do they look any different? They're pretty much the same kind of problem, aren't they? Which one do you want to do? Any suggestions? 19? Okay, so let's do 19. So it's the square root of 15 minus 2x equals x. All right. Again, it says to solve. It says find the real solutions. Okay? Find the real solutions. So that means if we get a non-real number, which would be a complex number, we cannot include it. All right, so just keep that in mind. We're only looking for the real solutions. All righty, what's the first thing we want to do? What's the big thing there that we don't like, we want to get rid of? No, not the x, the square root. Right, the square root. How do we get rid of a square root? We square it, right? Just do the opposite. If we do it to the left side, do it to the right side. Now, what did we just do? We squared something, didn't we? Okay. What did I say? When you square something, what do you have to do at the end of the problem? You got to check it. Okay. You've got to check it. All right. So keep that in mind. If you square both sides, make sure you check your answer at the end. All right. Everybody with me on that? Okay. So 15 minus 2x, because that just gets rid of that square root, equals x squared. This kind of looks like a quadratic. Let's make it look like a quadratic, set it equal to 0. So I'm going to keep the x squared over here. Let's add a 2x to both sides, and let's subtract a 15 from both sides, and then that'll all equal 0. See that? Just added a 2x over here, I subtracted a 15, and I just made all that stuff on the left-hand side because it's just equal to 0. Now on this one, does this factor? Now don't take a long time to figure out if it factors, but you don't have to take a long time. This does factor very nicely, doesn't it? If you wanted to, you could use the quadratic formula, but that's going to take you longer than factoring this simple little factor problem. Yes, Bryce? Nope, because I kept it. I kept this over here on the right. See, all I did, I did this. And this is 0. But then I just switched, this equal to 0, this equal to 0. It just looks nicer like that. Okay? All right, so this does factor. Do you see that it factors? 15. What times what is negative 15 and adds up to positive 2? Yeah, 5 minus 3, right? 5 minus 3. Multiplies to be negative 15, adds up to be positive 2. So I think that's a lot easier doing it this way than putting in quadratic formula, don't you think? If you wanted to use the formula, feel free. It's just going to take you longer. Now, what do we do with both of these things? Set them equal to 0. Very good. If you wanted to go straight from here to the answer, that would be okay as well. You should be able to at this point, but I'm showing you all the steps. So x equals negative 5, x equals positive 3. Do we just circle them and are nice and happy that we're done? No. What did I say earlier? We have to do what? You got to check it. All right, so let's put a negative 5 in for that original problem. You don't have to write the original one down, but I'm going to, just so we don't get confused with that x squared. That was our original problem, right? Let's take negative 5 and put it in for our original problem. So it's the square root of 15. We do a little of this in our head. It'd be negative 2 times negative 5. What's negative 2 times negative 5? 2 times 5 is 10. So it's positive 10. And that should equal, I'm going to put a question mark, that should equal negative 5. But does it? That'll be the square root of 25. What's the square root of 25? It's 5. Now, technically, it is plus or minus 5, isn't it? But this has to be equal to everything over here. Is negative 5 also equal to 5? No, it's not. So can we circle x equals negative 5? No, we can't. It doesn't work. You could move the x squared over. It's going to be the same thing. So this is what you're going to get. You're going to get negative x squared minus 2x plus 15 equals 0. Okay? But the thing is, you don't want a negative with the x. So what I do is I multiplied, or you could divide, it doesn't matter. Multiply or divide everything by a negative so that I get a positive x squared. So if I multiply this by a negative, or negative 1, let's say, what's that going to give me? Positive x squared. If I multiply this by a negative 1, what's that going to give me? Plus 2x. If I multiply this by a negative 1, that's going to give me negative 15. What if I multiply 0 by a negative 1? It still gives me 0, doesn't it? So this and this are exactly the same thing. But that was too confusing. So forget, let's do this. Just for the sake of time, forget doing it that way. If you have an x squared and it's over on the right, just keep it there. Don't move that to the left. It's not easier, okay? It's easier to keep the x squared there and then move everything else over to the other side. And that's what we did right here. See, I added a 2x and then I subtracted a 15. So that means this is all equal to 0. All I did was just this. Watch. I went whoop, like that, right? You don't see that on the people watching the video, but I just took my hands, I reversed them, and that's that. Okay, you could have done it this way. You could have taken that x squared and put it on the left, but then it makes more problems for you. Okay, it's just so much easier just keeping the x squared positive and moving the other stuff on the other side with that positive x squared. Does that make sense? Okay. You understand why 5 is not a solution? So don't circle it. Okay, does that mean 3 automatically works? Not automatically, okay, but let's just check to see if it works. All right, so let's put it in, again, to that original problem. So that'd be 15 minus 2 times 3, which is what? 6. And that should equal x, which is 3. I'll put a question mark here. Let's see if it equals. 15 minus 6 is what? 9. What's the square root of 9? It's 3. Does 3 equal 3? Yeah, it does. Oh, that works. So x equals 3. So that's your answer right there. Okay? If you put x equals negative 5, circle it, x equals 3, circle it, I'm going to mark it wrong. Okay? Because that's not your solutions. One of them is, but you got to have them all right. Good with that? Okay, so that was what, number 16? When do we get out of here? 45? Is it? Oh, it is. I got to hurry, don't I? Let's go a little faster. 16, so this is 17. So it's 25 to 30. Let me just pick one. 25 to 30. I can't remember which one I put on the test. Let's do let's do 25. I think that was the one on the test. Here, I can take a peek. I got it right here. I'm really helping you out here, aren't I? 17, 3 plus. Yeah, it is 25 actually. So that is the one on the test. How about that? 3 plus square root of x plus, 3x plus 1 equals x. All right, let's go through this quick because I'm running out of time. So write fast, listen faster. Subtract 3 from both sides, okay? And then what I can do is square both sides just like what I did before, but you got to make sure you're squaring this right here. Matt, you getting all this? So I'm squaring this right-hand side right here, so I put that in parentheses. That's super important. This gives you 3x plus 1. Now, you got to FOIL this. Would you agree? Because when you square it, you get this. And then what's that? It's x squared minus 6x plus 9. All right? Looks like a quadratic. Let's do this. Let's subtract a 3x from both sides. Let's subtract a 1 from both sides. And this is a 0. This is x squared. This is minus 9x. This is plus 8. All right? Now watch, this is equal to 0, or 0 is equal to this. Wouldn't it be the same exact thing as just writing equals 0? Yeah, I like it like that better. This actually factors, doesn't it? So that's nice. So what do you got? -8, -1. Doesn't that work? Yep, multiplies to be +8, adds up to be -9. Set them both equal to 0, so x equals what? 8, and x equals 1. But we squared both sides up here, so what do you have to do? You got to check to see if it works. Let's check. Let's put this in a different color. So I've got 3. Oops, thought I was in a different color. Let's try this again. There we go. All right, so I've got 3 plus square root of 3x. Let's put an 8 in there. So 3 times x is what? 3 times 8 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Okay, and let's see if this equals 8. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? 3 plus 25 is 3 plus 5 equals 8. Yeah, that works, so I can circle it. Let's put a 1 in for this. So it's 3 plus the square root. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. We'll put a 4 right there. And does that equal 1? Look at this. Does that equal 1? Square root of 4 is 2. No, it doesn't, so that's our only answer right there. Okay. That was, what did I say, 17? I'm not going to have enough time to do them all. $18, I'll just tell you what. I'll just tell you which problems are on there, okay? And that'll be good enough. So number 41 to 46 for 18. Number 19 on the test is 50 to 52. And number 20 on the test is 77 to 82. All right? This is the one where you let A equal something. Do you remember that? Okay, so what I would suggest that you do is watch the video on that. I think it was the last section. Okay, I think it was the very last section. I think all 3 of those are those kind. Are they? 41 to 46. Yeah, they are. All 3 of those are this kind right here, where you let A equal to whatever's in the middle. So I explained it when I taught the lesson. So go back to that. It's section 1.4. It's section 1.4, part 3, I believe. It's either 2 or 3. I can't remember. It might. Do you remember which one it was? I forget. It's one of those. So look there. That's how you do those problems. Try the odd ones. Look in the back. See if you get them right. Okay, even though I didn't have time to get to all that stuff. All right, that's it. Good luck. Test tomorrow.